Welcome to Breaking Blonde, like the news, but better dressed. Join me as we talk all things pop culture, current events, and zero politics. Hi, I'm Sarah Jenkins, former NBC anchor, CBS lifestyle host, and entertainment super fan. I left local news and lifestyle because the TV model is forever changing, and I can't wait to use my voice. Welcome back to Breaking Blonde, like the news, but better dressed. Today is Wednesday, September 3rd. It's hard to believe we are already in September, but I am here for it. The air is already feeling more fall-like, and Utah is just overall incredibly magical during the fall. So that's one reason why I love living here and experiencing fall after a long time of living West Coast states that we didn't really get the seasons as much. I am a warm weather person, but that is one thing I missed was the seasons when I lived in Scottsdale and then Vegas. So I'm here for fall. I already ordered a pumpkin spice at Starbucks and Target over the weekend. So your girl is here for it. All right, well, let's just jump right into it because there is a lot going on just this past week. You know, summer, like I said, is wrapping up. We're heading into fashion weeks over in Europe and film festivals. So this is a film festival that I feel like I don't know how long it's been around, but it's one of the higher profile ones. And we definitely saw that reflected in the many celebrities that came out in full force to promote their upcoming projects. We are, of course, talking about the Venice Film Festival. It started August 27th. So I am always loving all the fashion, but especially this year, I think maybe just, you know, like I said a couple seconds ago, I'm a warm weather person, but there's something about the layering and just seeing kind of as fashions shift into colder weather months, it's just fun to kind of get creative with your outfits and try all the new fashion and see what's out. So at the Venice Film Festival, I feel like a lot of times people kind of treat it as a runway for the beginning of the season of fall, heading into winter. So, me personally, I'd love to go to the Paris or the Venice Film Festivals. I think I wrote that and I'm confusing it with Paris Fashion Week. Of course, in France, there's the Cannes Film Festival, which I actually did go to. I had a YouTube channel, for those who don't know, called Blonde About Town, and kind of goes hand in hand with Breaking Blonde. This was a couple years ago. And long story short, I had stopped anchoring in the Midwest, moved to Vegas to cover more entertainment, kind of what I'm doing now, and, had this YouTube channel, and then COVID struck. And so everything kind of slowed down. It ended up being a blessing in disguise because we ended up doing IVF and starting our family and having my kids. The rest is history. But as I was starting Blonde About Town, we really were seeing a lot of momentum right before COVID. So ironically, I know exactly when I went last to New York because it was New York Fashion Week in end of February 2020, right before the world closed down, right? And the summer before that, 2019, I was in Europe. So we covered the Cannes Film Festival, which was incredible with Blonde About Town. We covered Formula One, which was an absolute dream in Monaco. It was my second time in Monaco. It was incredible. We took a helicopter in because they knew I'd been with NBC. That's one of those things where you fake it till you make it a little bit. And my husband, who also is my biggest fan, he was like, yeah, she worked with an NBC affiliate. And they go, oh. So it was an amazing experience. And I highly recommend going. I mean, Europe is always incredible, but for some of these fashion weeks, these film festivals, it's just turned up a notch, and people are out in full force. Like I said, when I went to Cannes, it was incredible, but I really would love to experience a fashion week other than New York. So some of the celebrities that we saw on the red carpet promoting their films or their projects were the always dapper George Clooney. He hit the red carpet with his wife, Amal. I thought she looked absolutely incredible. She has legs for days. She was wearing this fuchsia dress. The color was really beautiful with her dark hair, tan skin. Her legs are just perfection. Like she is looks like an Amazon goddess, 7 feet tall. The dress itself was definitely giving 80s prom. It had that off the shoulder, short, kind of poofy, but she's a stunner, so she can pull it off. And of course, he looked great as ever, but I would love to see him take some risks. I feel like we always see the same, but he's the silver fox forever. He really does have that, Rosemary Clooney, I think was his aunt. He has the forever bona fide old Hollywood look. It's George Clooney. I mean, he lives on Lake Como. So, yeah, he was definitely in his element, him and his wife. And it was just beautiful to see. Also at the Venice Film Festival, there was Shailene Woodley. I think I'm saying her name right. Shailene. My favorite role she was in was Big Little Lies. She plays kind of a young mom on that show with Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman plays an abuse victim, and they live in Monterey. Reese Witherspoon stars in it also. She's executive producer. But I digress. Shailene Woodley, I don't know what she was promoting for this particular appearance, but she wore Fendi, and it was absolute perfection as well. It was actually my favorite look I've seen on the red carpet for the Venice Film Festival. It was this dark fitted sequin number, perfect for fall. It fit her like a glove. And I did make a note. She was promoting Motor City, her upcoming role. I don't know much about that, but in my opinion, she's never looked better. She was also wearing an iconic, I believe it was the Bulgari snake. I feel like I've seen it in advertisements when I'm reading magazines, which I still do. I know a lot of people don't, but, and Bulgari, as a brand, I felt like it just looked very on point, and, it worked well with the dress. So I loved it. Also fashion related, Utah resident, shout out, Post Malone debuted his Cowboy Meets Couture line, Austin Post Apparel. He had a fashion show. This wasn't in Venice, it was in Paris, and it featured denim, cowboy boots, plaid, and he actually rode in on a horse. So I feel like only Post Malone would get away with doing this. I know I read online some people were kind of like, really, he's going to dip his toe in fashion, or criticizing that they're saying, he has done like rap and now country, identity crisis. What is he? I think nowadays, like every artist kind of dabbles in different genres. And so I feel like he can totally get away with this. I also read he was originally from upstate New York. I thought he was from Texas. He's definitely leaned into kind of those country roots, and now he lives in Utah, which has like a big Western presence feel as well. So I thought that was kind of fun that he did that. And why can't guys have fun? I think a lot of times people think of maybe these, obviously there's male designers, but a lot of female like pop stars, if they get into fashion, that's kind of expected. But why not a male artist to kind of, if they enjoy it, why not get into it as well? So that would have been so fun to be there and see that show. Also at the festival, Kim Kardashian, of course, was there. She showed up in a gray draped jumpsuit. She looked stunning. She was more covered up than we usually see, but I thought it was really pretty for fall, and it was kind of a dove gray. And then Kate Moss, another look I loved. She was seen in Tom Ford in a sequin fitted tuxedo jacket. So I just read that's one of the biggest looks for fall are these fitted jackets after a couple seasons where we've seen really loose kind of, people call it, the trend of raiding your grandpa's closet and having the really big oversized blazer. I think, the oversized jackets, denim, blazers, tweed, those are still very much on trend, but we're seeing a shift in things that are more fitted, which also brings us to, according to Cosmopolitan magazine, the top fall trends. Okay, so top trends for fall 2025. I found this so fun. A lot of these you'll hear and you'll be like, okay, this is kind of every single fall. At least I thought that. But, sometimes it comes down to the fit, the material. Like I mentioned, the fitted jackets, faux fur. I guess real fur is out. I think if you come to Utah, people will beg to differ. If you go up to Park City, and I remember years ago I went to Aspen, and it's like you forget that a lot of people are very anti-real fur. But faux fur, of course, is awesome because it's accessible for everyone. It's not as controversial. I do have a fur coat that I got in Vegas. I've talked about it before. I feel like they have the best vintage stores. But if I'm going to wear real fur, controversial take, but I prefer to purchase vintage. Anyway, polka dot's huge. We've seen that this summer. I love this trend. I just think it's so fun. It kind of reminds me of like early 2000s. I had a couple like silk, cute little summery tops, and we're seeing that go into fall. Fringe of any kind. I'm absolutely obsessed. We're actually planning our family fall photos in a couple weeks when the leaves are like perfection in the mountains here in Utah. And I'm really wanting to find a really cool fringe skirt. I have a picture in my head, but I have yet to find it. So if you guys see it out there or you've been shopping, this fall season, let me know because I'm kind of on the hunt for that. Fringe, I'm looking at you, Posty. Leather always, that was one of the ones I was like, come on. And now leather is worn even in the summer or spring. It's just kind of like a seasonless piece, timeless. Pattern mixing and dark lace. Dark lace, again, it's like florals for spring groundbreaking. I feel like that is, every year you can't go wrong with dark lace, especially in the fall, winter season. But I do love it. It's kind of that gothic romantic. If you listened to the episode last week, you know that Catherine Zeta-Jones would be a fan because apparently she is secretly a goth. I just loved that. Taking a little break here. Have you guys ever had these Alanis, by the way? I am not a big energy drink person, but I have recently got a little addicted to them. And no, this is not sponsored, but maybe it will be in the future. All right, moving on. I thought this was interesting. So is Gen Z bringing back the drunk cigarette? Let's hope not, because obviously we all know, I don't need to lecture you, cigarettes are horrible for your health. But it's just kind of interesting, I think, exploring trends. And like I've said before, everything seems to be cyclical. Things that are healthy, things that are not. According to Women's Health magazine, a writer who is living in LA, I'm assuming in her 20s, but she was talking about when she does go out, she noticed her friends kind of doing this more and more. They'll have like a drunk cig. And it did take me down kind of memory lane in my 20s. I remember, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I definitely was someone that would have like a cigarette if I was out, going to the bars with friends. I haven't had a cigarette in over 10 years. I can actually pinpoint the last, and I was never a big smoker. I was lucky in that I never had the addiction personality, especially for that. And with cigarettes, I had an ex who was like a chain smoker. I found it absolutely disgusting. I never smoked in the house. I was like, if you're going to smoke, you need to go out the patio. I think it's a nasty habit, but I'm not going to lie and say I've never partaken of one. And last time I had one, I was with my now husband. We were just dating, and he absolutely loathes smoking more than me. He was just disgusted by it. But we were in Nice in France, south of France, and everyone there does smoke cigarettes still. It does look kind of sexy when in Rome. You're walking, on these old historic streets and kind of dancing in these jazz clubs at night. And we'd been shopping and gone to the beach, and it was just like a fun vibe. And I remember I'd had a couple cocktails and I told him, I'm just in the mood for a cigarette. So I think I bummed one off someone. But literally, I can pinpoint that was the last time I had it. And it was in 2015 when we went, I think in the October. So it's been like 10 years. Anyway, so smoking, it is down more overall, statistics say, but is it seeing a resurgence? That's what this article was all about. So, I can pinpoint that time 10 years ago. I do think, I don't want to say in big cities. I think in general, I've heard this, like people in their 20s are kind of doing it again when they're having drinks, although people in their 20s aren't really drinking as much at all as, my generation or older. So overall, if you're younger, just don't even do it every so often. It's stupid. It's so bad for you. It ages you like shit. So I hope this isn't a trend. Being a mom now, 10 years later, I'm like, absolutely no, please don't be a trend. People are smarter nowadays. So I'm not too worried about this. But, and if you are like me and you're over in Europe and you just have like the occasional once a decade, I feel like it's like Gwyneth Paltrow. I saw somewhere she said she does like once a year for fun. But there's other things you can smoke that are actually healthier if you're going to go that way. Speaking of people who are fans of smoking things, the Burning Man Festival, aka Coachella for Tech Bros, was going on last week. According to New York Post, this was a crazy headline. A baby was born to parents with no idea about being pregnant. This mother, we've heard about this before. I think TLC used to have a show called I Had No Idea I Was Pregnant, something like that. I've never understood this. Like, how out of touch can you be? Are you on drugs for like 8 or 9 months or, 7 months? Unfortunately, that might be when you have them if you're drinking and smoking the whole time. these parents, I know nothing about these parents. And, the headline was just the baby was born. So I think it was healthy. Please praying. And the parents were saying it's a miracle. But okay, baby born to parents with no idea they were pregnant at Burning Man. I saw this and I'm like, this is the most Burning Man story ever. I've never been. I've had friends that have actually gone to Burning Man. I waver back and forth. I think the older I get, the more I'm like, I just have no interest. I love the vibe. I want to go to a festival. I would go to Coachella. I would go to, God, what's the one in Napa? Bottle Rock. There's so many that I think would be so much fun. But Burning Man, unless I had like the sickest camper that felt like a house, I just think it's a little too rough in it for me. Also, I'm not going to take mind-altering substances personally, no judgment, but like it's just not my thing. And I don't even know if I have any friends that I could rally to go as a group. I have a couple like random friends I've talked to over the years who went and they like loved it. But just thinking about like, I feel like I'd want to go with like a group, and I don't personally think I have enough friends to like get together to go for that type of trip. Anyway, I don't know. It's just turned into kind of a weird deal over the years. But like I said, there's other things I'd rather go to. I would love to go to Bottle Rock and Napa. So that's on my list for sure. All right. So switching gears here, Meghan Markle just released season 2 of With Love, Meghan on Netflix. It is out. She, it's Meghan Markle. Love her or hate her. She is a divisive character for sure. She married Prince Harry. People think she's an opportunist. People think she's earnest. She's innocent. People think she's an asshole. She's calculating. Like I said, everyone has an opinion. My personal belief, I've kind of wavered. I initially actually defended her, I feel like, a lot because I felt like she was, kind of getting unnecessarily critiqued for everything she did. But over time, I do feel like she makes it hard to defend her more and more. I don't think she's an evil person. I don't think she has malicious intent. Some people say, she's so I do think she's a little calculated. But I just think it's hard for people to relate to her because she just doesn't come off as genuine. She never has moments of what seems to be, and maybe she's just awkward on camera, but then like her whole prior career as a B-list actress was as an actor. So you would think maybe she just wasn't that great of an actor. I admittedly haven't seen her other work, but you would think you'd be able to like kind of convey that genuine earnestness, and she just doesn't. And I haven't seen season 2, but I did watch a couple episodes of season 1 because I was really curious, being in the lifestyle space, having been a lifestyle host. She's doing cooking. She's not a trained cook, but obviously I think, and it's been said by a lot of people, she envisions herself or would like to be kind of like the next Martha Stewart or Ina Garten or any of these kind of like cooks / people who are entertaining, and she has her jam line. Anyway, season 2 is out. Some of her guests she has on are celebrity chef Jose Andres. Side note, I think he's from DC, or he got his start. He's originally from South America, but with his restaurant career, he kind of was put on the map with Haleo, which is in Bethesda, Maryland, where I grew up. We grew up going there for like brunches, I'm kind of like a fan of his. And then there's a Haleo in the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Vegas. So love him. I know he's done a ton of humanitarian aid work. He's always supporting restaurant workers. He's very, does not see eye to eye with Trump. He's come out and been really critical of feeling like speaking about feeling a lot of people who work in restaurants are profiled. Anyway, interesting guest to come on her show, but he is a celebrity chef. And so I assume in that episode they were cooking up something together. Chrissy Teigen is another divisive character, John Legend's wife. She was a model. I'm not a big fan of her. I'll just come out and say it. She talk about a hypocrite. But anyway, she wrote some nasty tweets years and years ago. She's apologized, but she's another person who I just comes off as very disingenuous to me. And I think it was interesting that Meghan would have her on there. Maybe they were friends prior, but they both also, Chrissy has successfully written a lot of cookbooks. So I would argue that she's been more successful in the lifestyle space than Meghan, who I think by virtue of her name and who she married now has the show. Anyway, she's still trying to make it happen. I was reading People magazine talking about season 2 of Meghan's show that just dropped. They were, this writer was saying that they felt that Meghan was trading polish for curiosity. I feel like curiosity would indicate that she is coming off as more genuine, which I don't really see, just the little snippets I've seen. But I'd love to know your take. I just, I have a hard time with that one. And I like giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I also think when someone has, a passion project or a creative show like she is, sometimes the first season can be bumpy, but if it's not getting any better, maybe she's just not cut out for hosting a show. I mean, who knows? But I agree, love her or hate her, though. She can't win at this point. So, people critique her for being political. Then they critique her for being light and lifestyle. But like I said, I feel like she's kind of done it to herself. Even her guests are, kind of consistent. And anyway, enough about Meghan Markle. But, love her or hate her. That's the takeaway. All right, here's another topic I thought was kind of fun. So, are Gen Z dethroning 50-somethings as the most miserable generation ever? According to the Economist article, which is admittedly, I think, tailored to the older demographic of readers. So take that with a grain of salt. But they're saying, yes, they do believe that Gen Z, these 20-somethings and younger, are kind of teed up to be what they consider the most, miserable age, at least in recent memory. So they said for decades, researchers thought that adults grew more and more miserable as they aged through the 50s. And then interestingly, in their 60s, mid-60s, it shifted back to happiness again. So not so now. They are saying that young people are reportedly most miserable. I mean, some of the reasons perhaps are no money, which is kind of like a universal being young and broke thing for, I'd say, 99% of people. I was broke, and it's rough when you're in your 20s and you don't have life skills and you don't even know really how to maintain your apartment or your car. Or maybe I'm just speaking about myself, but I just was a dumbass in my 20s. Life is expensive, more expensive than ever in general in 2025. We have all the horrors going on, just national news. And then the other thing, which is I feel like this is just a personal take, but I think a lot of younger people, because they have been grown up glued to their phones, they don't know how to socialize. I hear people complain about this all the time with dating, if people even go on dates anymore. They don't know how to look someone in the eye. I hear women particularly kind of critique. They're guys don't know how to take the initiative. They're soft. And I'm all for equality with showing your emotions, but I think it goes both ways. I love a man, doesn't matter the age, if you're 22 or 72, if you have emotional intelligence, that's huge. That will take you far in life, not just with women. But forget emotional intelligence. It's and I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. I just think people don't know how to socialize, period, bottom line. And so, yeah, that would make me depressed if I were out there trying to expecting a guy to ask me out or just wanting to date. I just feel like it looks kind of dire. So I guess you just lean into your friends. But like I said, as a highly dysfunctional 20-something myself, I did thrive in my mid to late 30s. So it does get better, you guys. There is good news. Speaking of things that I learned later on in, I'd say, 35 plus, parenting, man. I had my kids at 35. I have twin girls. They're now 4. It's rough. So actress Robin Wright Penn is now kind of tuning in, or she's chiming in to the conversation about parenting, and she's saying that her one regret is not being hard enough on her kids. So she said that she, of course, raised kids with her ex, Sean Penn. Her critique of herself was that she was too lenient. And look, it's hard for everyone. She also kind of alluded to the fact that I assume he was probably the more strict one, because she said him and her had polar opposite parenting styles. I don't know when they separated. I don't know if they were the kids were young adults, but I think they were younger than that when they separated. But I know they were married a long time. And I think God, there's so many parenting books out there, and every year it changes, and gentle parenting versus helicopter parenting. And, I just get overwhelmed. So I think for me personally, I try to be intuitive, and I think there's no one right way to raise your kids. But I do always think it's interesting to hear people's perspective when they're older and they have kids at different stages. In her instance, young adults. Also, she's a celebrity, so that comes with a whole other host of problems. More access to resources in their case. I think people could argue it's easier for them to get spoiled. Maybe parents that are both off shooting or absent or with those resources, trying to buy their love, or I don't even know. I'm just speculating here, but it's all hard. It really is. But I think just as a village, we try to be aware and listen to other people's stories and do the best we can. But we're all just struggling out here. All right. A Yellowstone star. We talked about this show a couple episodes ago, and it was actually filmed I think season 1 and 2 were filmed here in Utah, and then it switched up to Wyoming or Montana. Anyways, a Yellowstone star that was pissing people off, and it is not Kevin Costner, shockingly. So Yellowstone actor Cole Hauser is catching flack for saying, quote unquote, old women fans can't keep their hands off of him. I thought this was kind of funny, but it is pissing people off. So he was interviewed at a whiskey event in Texas, and apparently he said these overzealous old women fans have gotten a little too touchy. Okay, I think he was probably sipping the whiskey at the event because I don't think, and no one can be this dumb to say that unless maybe he's just not aware of like the demographic watching this show. But I would venture to say it's probably mostly 50 plus. Maybe I'm totally wrong. It could be people in their 20s. When I worked in local news, we always looked at the demographic of ages, and I guarantee that shows obviously are going to do this too. And they monitor, the ages that the shows are popular in, because then they try to like kind of cater to that in the writing and whatnot. So, he's just an actor promoting a whiskey. He gets asked about it. He probably had a one-off experience, like he said. He said this woman, grabbed his ass. And obviously no one should be assaulted like that. But I just think he was probably sipping whiskey. But I'm like, don't bite the hand that feeds. So his fan base is likely, quote unquote, old women, as he said. A lot of people in the comments responding were like, define old. And I did look up his age. So he just turned 50. And then his wife, I always get them confused. She's an identical twin. They're both actresses, but I think her name's Brittany Daniels. She is best known for like Joe Dirt. And she's like his age. She's 49. So I'm like, maybe you're talking about women who are like in their 60s, but like you and your wife, neither of you are in your 20s. So it was just kind of a weird comment. I could more see him being like, forget the age comment, but like, hello, don't grab me. And like, I totally get that. But it was just kind of funny. So I'm like, you need to be a little more aware of what you say. And who knows? I don't think it will really affect his popularity in the show because it was like a one-off comment, but everyone says stupid shit. Some people just say it more often than others. All right, this takes have your people call my people to a new extreme. Is the future of dating having your personal AI date other people's personal AI? I'm not making this up. This is an actual story I was reading about. And, you have some pretty high profile people chiming in on this. I still think it's so crazy that we're even having this discussion. But could artificial intelligence be the matchmaker that we all need? Well, Bumble co-founder, her name is Whitney Wolfe Herd. I believe she also was one of the co-founders of the other dating app Hinge. Could be Grindr, actually. I need to fact check that. But I know Bumble was one of her projects. And that's relevant to the story because she's saying the future of dating is having an AI act as a personal dating concierge, helping people kind of like customize, knowing ahead of time what you are into and what your likes are, and like kind of like gleaning that knowledge about what you put in there, about your belief systems and your sense of humor and basically everything about you in a robot form, and then screening people in advance before you date them. I have thoughts, but I thought this was interesting. First, despite being the founder of the dating app itself, Wolf Herd even admits that she would have never swiped right on her own husband. So she's admitting that even though she's had this wildly successful dating app, she does believe that, without AI, she's obviously pushing this aspect now, she wouldn't have used the app to meet her husband because there's something to be said for just these unquantifiable traits in people that you find attractive. So I don't know what it was about her husband that she would have not swiped right on. I think it's right is when you like someone and left is when you don't. I have never admittedly been on the dating apps, but I have a lot of friends that have. But anyway, so this founder, she said that AI can help people work on themselves, give communication tips, even date on their own behalf. I just think this is kind of scary. Like we just talked about younger generations literally not being able to talk and struggling with dating and conversation. So let's not use robots to date people. Like, let's just power through awkwardly like everyone else. This is so strange. It's one of those things where I feel like on paper, it's a bunch of like really smart, nerdy people who develop these apps saying, you can write down X, Y, and Z and find your perfect match. Well, no, like let's get back to organically in person. Like I said, there are intangibles about things that make people intriguing to us, attractive to us. And I just think that like robots and AI will never replace chemistry in person and those just unquantifiable things that we just have chemistry. Like meeting someone in the wild is so much better. Not saying that dating apps can't be amazing because so many people meet that way, but anyway, I thought that was so weird. And I wonder if that is going to be more popular in the future. Obviously, Bumble's huge, Hinge is huge, Grindr, whatever she developed. But then I wonder if in like 20 years, apps they'll be completely obsolete because just like we're already seeing with like smartphones, the next generation will kind of have a backlash against it and be like, oh, I'm nostalgic for simpler times. So will people be that same way with the apps? Will that become just another trend and feel really archaic and kind of dated and uncool? All right. I'd love to know your thoughts on that too. And on that note, that is a wrap. I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Please like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok at Breaking Blonde. You can also share on socials, and I will see you soon.